From the Chesapeake Bay Journal, your source for independent environmental reporting, this is Chesapeake Uncharted, the podcast that uncovers stories about the bay, its interconnected ecosystem, and the people who rely on them. I'm Jeremy Collins. On today's episode,
this is something that's sort of innate in us and something we've been talking about for years, and then all of a sudden, we're looking for a film, our next film, after we finish a film. Okay, what's next? This is what we thought about.
Welcome to Season 4 of Chesapeake Uncharted. This season, I'm joined by one of my colleagues, Lauren Hines Acosta. She's our Bay Journal reporter based in Richmond, Virginia. Lauren has the scoop on what's going on here.
Thanks, Jeremy. I'm Lauren Hines Acosta, and this season we're taking a behind-the-scenes look at the new Bay Journal film, Chesapeake Rhythms. It explores the migrations of 4 types of creatures that visit the Bay region. We're excited to share what makes these migratory species tick and what they need from us to thrive. Future episodes will be told in 3 parts. We'll hear actual segments from the new film. Plus, we'll talk with the film producers for the stories behind the stories. And then we'll dive into how we can better conserve these creatures. But in this first episode, we're going to speak with the producers. They spent hours chasing these critters and years dreaming of this project. Dave Harp directed the film and acted as cinematographer. He is a photojournalist and has been capturing the Bay on film for more than 30 years. You can hear Tom Horton in the film as the narrator and writer. He has written about the Chesapeake Bay for the past 50 years. Sandy Cannon Brown edited the film. She owns a film production company and taught environmental filmmaking at American University. Chesapeake Rhythms marks the 8th film they've made together. Well, thanks for being on the show today, guys.
Nice to be here.
Same here.
Nice to be here.
Well, Dave, you've told me that you and Tom have been talking about this film for years, specifically this idea of rhythms in the Bay. So how did this film become a reality, and why was Rhythms your inspiration?
Well, Tom and I have been exploring the Bay years ago with the Baltimore Sun and for book projects and for magazine stories for 40-some years, and have been always conscious of the rhythms of the Bay. I mean, the tides, the wind, the migration of all the different animals coming through. So this is something that's sort of innate in us, and something we've been talking about for years. And then all of a sudden, we're looking for a film, our next film, after we finish a film. Okay, what's next? This is what we thought about.
And rhythms. You have to understand that estuaries like the Bay, and an estuary is basically a place where the ocean coming into the land meets the flow of freshwater rivers coming off the land. An estuary, more than almost any other body of water on Earth, is all about rhythm, motion. In fact, if you go back to the Latin root of estuary, it means to heave, to boil, to be in commotion. And so you've got these geologic motions. So, and then overlaying those hydraulic and physical motions are these movements of creatures in and out of the Bay, which I call the migration shed, a term that has not yet caught on. I don't know if it's in Webster's or not, probably not. So, yeah, all about rhythms, all about motions, that's estuaries.
Also, I think the fact that where land and water meet, because of the nature of the Bay, the critters and humans come into contact, and that's where we meet them.
So yes, for this film, we looked at the migrations of swans, American eels, shorebirds, and monarch butterflies. So why did y'all pick those 4 out of all the critters that visit the Bay?
I think they're just some of our favorites. I mean, we did a book and we've covered swans for most of the time Tom and I have been together, working together. Monarch butterflies, we're avid kayakers, and you can't be in the bay in September kayaking around and not having monarch butterflies waft over you. Shorebirds are just, they're everywhere, and there's so many different varieties. And just, again, it's some of our favorites. And eels are just sort of a mystery, where they came from and where they're going, and they're very difficult to chronicle for us.
Yeah, swans are, obviously cool. They're one of the most beautiful birds on Earth. They're among the world's largest flighted waterfowl. And I've always taught my environmental studies classes at Salisbury University. We always do a swan field trip. The way I use migration with my classes, you use the bird or the critter, the shorebirds, the eels, to get their attention. But the bigger lessons of migration is that we're connected. We're one way stop among many for each of these critters. And to keep them healthy requires doing what we can to preserve our part of the journey, also doing what we can to help other places preserve their parts.
Hi, this is Laura Lutz, editor at the Chesapeake Bay Journal. I hope you're enjoying our podcast, and I'd like to invite you to join the community of Bay Journal readers. If you care about climate change, wildlife, clean air, healthy communities, and of course the Bay and its rivers, you'll find news you can use at the Bay Journal, along with some great ideas for outdoor travel. Our subscriptions are free. Check us out at bayjournal.com and click on subscribe to start receiving the best independent environmental news in the Bay region.
When I was watching the film, Tom, your words and your voice bring such like a calming presence to it. And I understand you've written lots and lots of poetry. So I'm curious, what has inspired your writing and your prose?
I guess I was inspired by the Bay almost from birth. I grew up eating oysters and hiking in the marshes and fishing and hunting and being out with my dad and just loving it, never thinking that I might make my living writing about it. So it was sort of like coming back to what I had grown up with, but looking at it in a very different way, because by 1972, the Bay was in a lot of trouble. So it was timing, Lauren. I applied for that job at the Sun in 72. Earth Day had inspired a whole new generation of people to care for the environment just 2 years before. The times were changing, and they were changing in the direction of caring about the environment, and the Bay was starting to turn belly up, and we weren't quite sure why. So a lot of things came together at the time I needed a job.
I thought all this time you were inspired by my photographs, Tom. Come on.
Well, that has helped. That has helped. But, working with Dave I would have gotten out on the Bay a fair amount if I never knew Dave, but knowing Dave, I've gotten out all times a day, generally crack of dawn, way more, because, I can kind of make up a sunrise based on lots of sunrises I've taken notes on. Dave has to be there. And since I go with him, I have to be there too. So, he gets me outdoors.
Yeah, but we definitely have a symbiotic relationship. I remember being out with Tom years ago once, right before dawn. We're getting ready to go into a heron rookery
on South Marsh Island.
Island, and he's scribbling in his notebook, and I said, "Tom, what are you writing about?" And he said, "The color of the water as the light changes."
Because
that's
it's really
an inspiration to me. So.
It's really cool. You see as I said, the water wakes a long time before the land. Yeah.
Never forgotten that.
Sure, gotta take notes.
I understand y'all have done so many books and films together. So Dave and Tom and Dorian and Sandy, I have questions for you. Don't worry. Um,
Now, remember now, Sandy is the glue that holds this whole project together. So
Yeah, the one film she didn't work on with us was hell.
it was. It
It
was.
was.
Yeah.
Dave and I were even a little snappy with each other. Yeah. It was hell.
that kind of leads me to my next point because Dave, you said Sandy's kind of taught you how to make a film, and y'all have been collaborating since 2015. So, like Sandy, what was that relationship like in the beginning when all of you were first starting to collaborate? And what tips did you give Dave, by the way?
Well, we could go on for a while here, but when I first met Tom Horton, it was he was going to narrate a film for Shore Rivers, and I was in awe. I was nervous because Tom Horton was the name like James Michener. I mean, he was a famous Chesapeake legend. But after meeting Tom, it was very easy, pretty laid back guy, nice to get to know. And then did another film that he narrated a year later. But I guess it was 2015 then when we started together, I had read William Warner's book, Beautiful Swimmers. And if you've read that book, it's just gorgeous. It's that you almost see it as you read it. And I thought, this would make a great film. And I got to the afterword in the book, and the first sentence talked about his friend, Tom Horton. I thought, oh my God, I know Tom. There's a connection here. So I went down to see Tom and asked him if he'd be interested in making a film, and he was kind of hesitant. But I remember very clearly he said, well, if my friend Dave Harp could be involved. And the rest is history.
Well, that film, excuse me, that film certainly changed my life because I got to know Sandy and started doing video instead of stills. So my relationship with Sandy has been a very positive one over these 8 or 9 films. Actually, Sandy and I have done 10 or 11 together. And it just changed my life from being a still photographer to actually using film, using motion picture to tell stories.
Yeah, I remember very clearly, and Dave says this a lot, is we were out on a shoot, and Dave had never really been a filmmaker. And he said, I don't know anything about making film. And I said, you see that little record button? Push it. And from that moment on, he was a cinematographer.
I've never shot video before Sandy, ever.
And Sandy really adapted to getting out on the bay. I remember one morning down in Norfolk, she said, so what time are we leaving? And Dave said 4 o'clock or 5 a.m. And you said, I'll just keep my clothes on and lie on top of the sheets and I'll be ready to go at 5, And then the other time you asked me, were the waves when we were out there filming somebody, what were they, 3-4 feet? And I said, I don't know, what were they, Dave, like 6 inches, foot, maybe, If they'd been 4 feet, we would have been out there. But anyway, it all came together.
We turned Sandy into an outdoor woman.
Sort of.
Sort of, yeah.
Very, very sort of. My idea of camping is a 2-star motel, but
But you humored us.
Yes, I did. I loved every minute of it and miss you guys terribly. This is the big thing about moving away, which I did almost 5 years ago now, Lauren, is I can't be out there at 5 in the morning to see the sunrise with them. And I get to see it as the editor. They bring all this wonderful material to me, but boy, I sure do miss being out there with these guys.
Yeah, it really is a different experience. And well, so from the safety and confines of your editing room, seeing all the footage, once they send it off to you, I am curious, how did you go about editing the film?
It's a hard question, but when you have Tom's words and Dave's material to work with, it really is not hard at all. And Dave and I work very closely in the editing. He of course, he's been there, he's seen there, he knows what shots he likes the best, and he knows the story he wants to tell. So he relates that, and we do get together for each film at least a couple of times in the editing process to guide me along. But The beauty of it is I'm the first audience. I'm the one who gets to get an impression and an emotion and a feel for what there is. And then what I love and what I understand, I can give back out. But I'm in a wonderful position to appreciate what they do.
Dave and I talked about this a little bit, but what do you think makes y'all such a great team?
I don't know.
Well, at this point, it'd be kind of hard to tell him to take a hike. I found a younger, prettier photographer or something, But
I think there's just good chemistry, and we're all close friends. I mean, I've only known Sandy for 10 years, but we're dear friends. And Tom and I have been together for 40 years. And
yeah, I think we were first thrown together on the Smith Island assignment, wasn't it? Yeah,
right.
By the Sun, going way back. Let's put it this way. I've worked for magazines up to and including National Geographic, so worked with some other good photographers, but I've never worked with a photographer who comes with me even when there's not a photograph to be had. Dave just likes to come and see what the story is.
And the beauty of using film now over the last 10 years is it is a wonderful way to tell a story and to get facts out there. I just love that. And I consider myself a journalist foremost, other than being a photographer and a cinematographer or whatever else, director or whatever other names you want to call me. But I love journalism.
Well, my last question for us, looking back at the film now that it's real and out in the world and done, what do you hope people take away from it? And I'd love to hear from each of you.
Well, my take on it is, if you break it, you bought it. I think that just taking care of the land, of the water, taking care of the environment, living lightly on the land, appreciating that which is around us. The migrations to me are just magical. And I never, ever tire in November when I hear the first tundra swans fly over on their way down. To me, it just sends chills every year. So I think just learning to appreciate our environment, learning to appreciate the world around us, and especially on a micro level here on the bay, taking care of a very fragile environment, very fragile place.
Yeah, and I kind of hope it furthers this concept of a migration shed, which I like. Look, we started 50 years ago, we paid a lot of attention to the bay, meaning the water. Then at some point it became clear, well, you've also got to pay attention to the watershed, which is 16 times bigger. And then it became clear, a lot of pollution comes from the air. So we got to pay attention to the airshed, which goes clear up into Canada, the air that blows toward the bay carrying pollution. And this just expands that watershed, airshed to an even bigger layer, the migration shed, which stretches from Argentina to the Arctic to the Bering Sea. So I kind of big picture thinking, I like that a lot.
I think the main thing for me was an education, because most of the facts I had some idea of, but most of them I didn't. And it gave me an appreciation for reminded me that every critter has a story and is important. I mean, when they told me we were going to have a segment on eels, I kind of went, oh, really? They're not very pretty, and who likes eels? But the story is absolutely amazing. And you begin to appreciate all these critters out there from this migration and the lives that they lead. And some of those lives are very, very short in going thousands and thousands of miles. But I hope that people come away with a great appreciation that we as humans really are pretty weak, do-nothing people, do-nothing critters.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for talking with me, at least for this first episode. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Lauren.
Yep, thanks.
Thank you.
Well, that was Lauren Hines Acosta reporting for the Chesapeake Bay Journal. I just wanted to drop in here before the theme music plays to just let you know that if you like what you're hearing with Chesapeake Rhythms, you can see it as well. And you can find that video on the Bay Journal website at bayjournal.com and search under the Multimedia tab. Or you can find it on our YouTube page. Just head over to that YouTube search bar and type in Chesapeake Bay Journal. Okay, on with the credits. Chesapeake Uncharted is brought to you by the Bay Journal, an independent nonprofit environmental news source for the Chesapeake Bay region. This episode was produced by Jeremy Cox and Lauren Hines Acosta. The story was edited by Laura Lutz. Our marketing and advertising director is Jackie Kane. You can find more episodes of Chesapeake Uncharted on your favorite streaming service or on our website, bayjournal.com. If you like what you're hearing, sign up for a free Bay Journal news subscription too, also on our website at bayjournal.com. Until next time, this is Jeremy Cox. Take care.